Hi there, I'm Amy Griffiths and I'm one of the journalists in Manx Radio's newsroom. And on this edition of Newscast, we're talking about bus services in Douglas. Because one MHK says a bus station for Douglas should be the responsibility of the Department of Infrastructure. The Planning Committee is currently considering plans by a private developer, which would include an indoor bus information centre on Lord Street. The last facilities there were demolished in 2002. But Douglas East member Joney Faragher has put a motion forward in Tynwald calling for the re-establishment of facilities for bus passengers in the island's capital city to be a priority, and that the department should submit a report on its plan to Tynwald no later than the last day of December, which is almost exactly the same as the motion that she put forward in July 2023.
This motion might look quite familiar to a lot of people because it's almost the exact same motion that I put in July 2023, obviously with the date moved to 12 months later. So the motion that I put in July 2023 recognised that the re-establishment of bus facilities in Douglas is a priority. And what it did was it asked the DOI to draw up a detailed plan of how those facilities will be provided. The motion was brought because we can't await the outcome of the Lord Street site. That was the point, and that was discussed in the debate by several members, that we need to do something else that brings us proper bus facilities for our capital city as a priority. But the Department of Infrastructure's response was to say that they were going to await the completion of the Lord Street site. So they didn't draw up that detailed plan that they'd been asked to. They gave this Tynwald decision very little attention. It's my impression, actually, that the letter that they provided in January 2024 was only written up because I was chasing for an update on it. It seemed to me that very little work had been completed on the Tynwald policy decision from July to December 2023. Now, in their letter dated January 2024, the DOI gave some indication that they would pursue investigations around the use of the sea terminal as potential for bus facilities. So I wanted to give them time to bring something meaningful to Tynwald around this. And I did actually go and meet with staff and had some discussions with them around this. And I was really hopeful that something might come out of that. However, here we are, nothing's been brought. I do note that the DOI have put the exact same letter from January 2024 on the order paper for this month's Tynwald. They call it a plan for the re-establishment of facilities for bus passengers. That letter isn't a plan by any stretch of the imagination. And I guess I just feel like departments shouldn't ignore policy decisions made by Tynwald. The DOI were given it a really clear instruction here from the policy position that this is a priority. And it looks like they simply ignored that. And it's just not good enough. People using the bus service deserve protection from weather, toilet services, appropriate seating and lighting, timetable information. Douglas deserves this. Our visitors deserve this. And the DOI has an obligation to provide this for the people of the Isle of Man. The bus station in the capital city was demolished in 2002. 22 years later, we still don't have any facilities to replace it. That's far too long. We need to act now, not in a few years' time, not at the whim of a private developer. In my opinion, government needs to act now.
Well, I was just about to say, there are currently proposals being considered by the Planning Committee to redevelop part of Lord Street to include a proper indoor bus station, if you like, with these facilities. So how confident are you that these plans are going to come into fruition? And do you think it's something that government should be pursuing itself rather than relying on a private investor?
Well, these are all the sorts of questions that I was hoping to bring out in Keys this week. And you're absolutely right to ask those questions. So is it right that we are relying on private developments to provide us with a bus station for our capital city? Is that right in the first place? Should that not be an obligation for the Department of Infrastructure? Also, how much trust and faith will we have in this, considering that the last plan for this was granted in 2019 with a condition to have completed that within 4 years, and that never did get completed. So there didn't seem to be any penalties for that. There didn't seem to be any robustness within the contract with that developer that would actually inbuild some accountability. How much faith can we all have that any new contract will actually deliver this for us? And like I sort of said there, we've been 22 years now without bus facilities in the capital city, and I just don't think it's good enough. I'm afraid I just do not think it's good enough. Government has agreed that this is a priority for us, and that's the way that they need to tackle this now, as a priority. That's what Tynwald decided. That's what the DOI need to do.
I suppose the argument is that money is tight everywhere, and if we are able to find a private investor who is able to fund it and happily fund it, then shouldn't we be embracing that and supporting it rather than saying that it should be something that falls on government shoulders?
I can take that argument, absolutely, if it wasn't in the backdrop of the fact that the private developer contracts that we've had in the past have fallen through with absolutely no accountability, absolutely nothing being done to move forward having bus facilities in the capital city. So if it is going to be that we are relying at the whim of a private developer in future, we need to see that contract. We need to be able to scrutinise that for how robust it is, how accountable we can hold the developers in future.
And you want to see a report on a plan in Tynwald no later than the last day of this year. Considering you've already been waiting a year, are you optimistic that you're going to see that come into fruition?
Well, I mean, I guess I just hope so. I think I've said before in terms of bringing motions to Tynwald, a lot of work does go on with regard to them in the background. So there was a lot of work done when I brought that original motion. A lot of discussions took place, a lot of background legwork being done to ensure that your motion will be supported and that people understand what you're asking. So I feel that there is definite support because it was unanimously supported last time that I brought this. It's now down to, will the DOI do this in terms of, this is a Tynwald policy decision. Will the DOI actually give this some credence this time around?
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.